So we had plenty, and I mean plenty, of NXT call-ups over the last year. From Rick Boogs coming up to aid an ongoing restoration of all things Shinsuke Nakamura, to the recent arrival of Hit Row on Smackdown. And if you didn't also sing Hit Row immediately after you heard me say it, clearly you're not a fan. They're expected to make quite the income, I can tell you that. That was originally a typo. I was supposed to say Impact, but given their gimmick, I decided that this was the right time to leave it in. That said, there were a number of NXT call-ups left on the table, some in particular that seemed to be a bit of a bonehead decision to actually leave them on the shelf, not actively involved on the main roster. Some were expected, some less so, and some were heavily rumoured without any actual proven basis in fact. It was fan speculation rather than any sort of report making them the big rumoured names that they became. I've reached out to try and find out more information about who was left behind and who has only been temporarily kept aside. First, I want to talk about LA Knight, a name that was mentioned non-stop as someone not just ready, but chomping at the bit. He did not get the call-up. The truth is that while his name was discussed, no satisfactory concepts were put forward for LA Knight by the creative team, essentially because they were working so hard to bring as many other people into the mix as possible and giving them the matches. They weren't able to really come up with anything for LA Knight at that time. Unless something good gets put on the table, he'll continue to develop closer to the favourite WWE style down on NXT 2.0. Io Shirai was a shoo-in, or at least as far as I thought. Instead, she's been held onto for the women's tag division. There'll be a bit of talk later about women's tag teams and how that division has fallen apart, but the general expectation is that she's doing something important in NXT right now, and they don't want to rip all of the big players out, especially when the ratings for NXT 2.0 have not managed to hold firm. The WWE are hoping to retain a draw or two, hence why Tommaso Ciampa is currently a champion. Volta was mentioned by PW Insider, but this did not come to fruition. Basically what I said last time we were actually hosting a spoiler warning, because I did not expect to see it. Volta has not been used much by the WWE since he lost the NXT UK Championship. WWE management is currently in an ongoing discussion with him that has essentially lasted for the last 3 years. They want to push him hard. They want to push him to the top. He has no interest in doing that. He does not care about fan reaction or fan reception. He does not care about the whole face or heel concept. Volta has a very clear idea of who he is, and he has no desire to deviate. So when he says, I don't want to move to the United States, you can pretty much bank on it. There's still plenty of time for that conversation to go the WWE's way, but I think he's going to hold firm on this. The other big name, no question, is Dakota Kai. Why Dakota Kai has been left on the shelf, I have no idea, and I've not been able to get any sort of satisfactory answer. She's not actively involved in NXT, and she hasn't been since before 2.0. She's vanished. Now there are a number of possibilities, and I don't want anybody to overreact here. If you remember when reports went out that Rhea Ripley was back in Australia renewing her visa after she lost a match to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, but what actually happened, as I reported at the time, was that she read this particular article while sitting on her couch in Florida. I won't be calling for anyone's head yet. I just really hope that Dakota Kai is on my screen, being her usual badass self again soon. These potential call-ups, they're good. They're damn good. Too good, in fact. If I were WWE, I'd be getting them up. Bossman says Io, LA Knight, Cameron Grimes, I thought were locks to go, Dakota Kai too. Yeah, I definitely thought a number of them were. Io Shirai, definitely. Cameron Grimes and LA Knight, not so much. I didn't think they were necessarily going to be called up because there just wasn't really room for them right now. But at the same time, Dakota Kai is a massive oversight for me. And I expect we're going to see several more NXT call-ups, particularly of the names mentioned, in the coming weeks and months when a good storyline, a satisfactory storyline, is finally pitched for them. Says, with the reasoning of NXT 2.0 needing draws, I did figure there were a few superstars in that brand that were untouchable. Yeah, and with Johnny Gargano in consistent contract negotiations, which haven't started yet but will be starting soon, it is a situation whereby Gargano, I feel, will be offered a lot of potential deals on the main roster, but will also be offered quite a lot in NXT just to stay. The money in NXT is going to start going up soon. They're still paid very little compared to main roster. They need to start going up, at least for the people who are staying. Welcome Hector as well. Says, happy Friday, Tom. If NXT 2.0 wouldn't have happened, do you think Dakota Kai would have beaten Raquel? The story was there, or was the plan always to have Dakota go to main, not Raquel? The plan was to have Dakota Kai there as backup to Raquel Gonzalez, but she wasn't supposed to be there for long. The idea was simply get her on the main roster, get her in use, but they've not been able to come up with a compelling storyline for her. They just haven't. She's considered to be a good enough character to make it work, but I do feel they're probably going to want to pair her up. I don't like that. I think she's good enough on her own, but I do feel they'll probably pair her up with someone who isn't the strongest on the microphone. My worry is that that's the plan for Tamina.